In this video, I want to talk to you about why marry rich is actually awful, terrible dating advice, and what is the number one quality you want to be looking at in a man when it comes to financial resources. This is dating and relationship coach Sami Wunder. For the last decade, I've been helping strong, smart, successful women find and attract incredible romantic relationships. So let's talk about why marry rich is awful dating advice, especially if you are a woman with substantial resources yourself. So if you have been looking at the advice on the internet, more recently, a lot of coaches have emerged which tell you how to snag a man, land a man, the millionaire dating formula, and it is overemphasizing on rich men and why women should date rich men and how a woman can snag a rich man. Now, while personally I am all for a man having resources, a man being rich, a man being a provider, the issue I have with this message is that it overemphasizes the possession of resources without actually helping you understand that a man may or may not be willing to share those resources with you. So here's the catch. Over the last 3-4 rounds of Elevate, this is the last 3 years, I have seen a growing trend among women where they are falling for men with flashy cars, flashy titles, CEOs, CFOs, founder of an 8-figure company. And of course, these men know how to signal wealth in their Instagram profiles or on their dating profiles, which helps them attract a lot of gorgeous, beautiful, attractive women. But here's what many of these women don't understand. Just because a man has those resources doesn't automatically imply that he's going to share those resources with you. So what happens is that women fall for the shiny object syndrome without really asking themselves the question, but is he really generous? Is he really a man who wants to share his resources with me? So recently I had a conversation with an Elevate client where she was dating a man with a net worth of over 10 million. That man had made a lot of money. He was still working. He had a lot of physical assets, land, properties. But guess what? Every time my client was out on a date with him, he would complain about even buying her ice cream. I am not kidding. I am not making this up. This is real life multi-millionaire men. And she would have to prove herself to him and she would have to say, I don't need this all the time. Today's an extra special experience. I would love that 3-scoop ice cream with all the X and Y. And then he would pull out his $40 and act like he had given her the world. So what my client was falling for, and of course we helped her realize what was really going on, but what she was really falling for was the shiny object syndrome. Just because he has multi-millions in net worth and he has these cars and he has these resources doesn't mean he has the quality of generosity. So what I tell my clients is that a rich guy is not the problem. It's not like I'm anti-rich men. I love rich men. I'm a rich woman myself. I love rich people. I think money is awesome if you do good things with it. So you wanting to attract a rich guy is not a problem, but you falling for the shiny object syndrome and not being able to use your discernment to see, is this man actually generous with me or not? Does he have a real provider mentality or not? Now, many men will simply not have provider mentality. Many men will simply not want to share their resources. Or here's another nuance to the situation. If they do have a lot of money and they also want to spend it on you, not a problem, they will often become extremely transactional in the relationship. You want money, I want physical intimacy, let's exchange, let's do the transaction. You want to fly private jets, you want me to sponsor your holiday in Maldives or in Monaco, cool with it. let me have what I want, which is access to your physical body and your resources as a woman. So often these relationships become extremely transactional and they lack an emotional quality to them, to the extent that a lot of young women will experience that if they're falling for the shiny object syndrome, they get replaced really fast within 6 to 8 weeks, because men who operate this way, they see this as a transactional exchange. You give me sex, I give you money, and we're both happier because of it. Now, of course, no judgment. If that is the kind of relationship you want, go for it. That's not the kind of relationship I would ever want to find myself in. And that's also not the clientele I attract. I attract women who, of course, want men who have resources, because why would a woman marry down, or why would a woman date down? But we are also teaching these women inside Elevate to not just look for financial resources, but also to look for the quality of generosity. Now, in my personal case, when I met my husband 13 years ago, both of us had nothing. Literally, we were starting out. And so I knew I was marrying into a good family, a solid family with assets and, a good bloodline, so to speak, checking out his legacy, checking out what background he comes from, and that he comes from a good, solid background. So my husband actually belongs to Baltic royalty in terms of bloodline, and his grandma actually being a Baltic royal. And so I did check for that, but we were quite young. But what I really looked for was the quality of generosity. So my husband never asked me to pay on dates, always planned the trips, was more than happy to give me gifts. I remember even at graduation during my master's, he brought me a diamond pendant as a gift, and that was from his savings during his own master's. So I always found that this man was generous with sharing what he had, and he didn't have all these ideas of scarcity around, this is mine, this is yours, what do you bring to the table, why should I pay for X and Y, why can't you pay for it, what is it that you do for me? He never had any of that stuff until today. Now that my business makes multi 7 figures per year, it's a multi 8 figure brand over the last 10 years, what I have noticed is that it doesn't matter to him. He still continues to be the same generous provider man. So he makes good money. He still buys me luxury handbags. He still buys me diamonds. He still wants to spoil me. And for him, money is important in terms of living a good life, but not more than the connection we share. So if tomorrow I had nothing, this man would still love me, provide for me, give me all he has based on what he does possess. So this has been such a life-changing thing for me to observe. I didn't know back then that I was choosing a man based on generosity, but today, 13 years into our marriage, I'm like, wow, like he is still operating from the same value system. And so if you are encountering men who are having resources, but they're scarce in the way they think about those resources, or scarce in the way they share those resources, then remember that quality never really changes. And that often ends up either in a very transactional relationship, which lacks emotional basis, or it ends up being a relationship where a man will use his money to manipulate you because he's not a natural giver. He's not a natural, free-flowing provider. He likes to be withholding his resources, and he gives those resources when you behave a certain way. So a lot of the times, marry rich advice makes women fall flat on their face because they end up with highly controlling, highly manipulative men, and they end up being miserable in these relationships. So is my message here, don't marry a rich guy? Not at all. I am not anti-rich men, but my message here is definitely don't just judge a book by its cover. Don't just assume because he has a great car, he has assets, that he's going to generously share them with you. You have to observe a man's ability to provide and to be generous with you while you date him. And that money that he has should never be used as a bargaining chip against your best interest. Because if he senses that you will do anything to receive his money, he is going to use that against you. He is going to use that for his best interest, but not necessarily in your best interest. So next time you see somebody telling you, here's the millionaire dating formula, here's how to catch a millionaire, tell them there's more to a long-term relationship than just marrying a millionaire. I want to marry a millionaire who's generous. I want to marry a millionaire who's a provider. And I want to marry a man who may not necessarily be a millionaire, but if he's generous with his resources, even at a six-figure or a multi-six-figure salary, that is going to give me a far more fulfilling romantic relationship than just marrying a rich guy who's never either at home or uses his money to control or manipulate. Now, if this was helpful, make sure to give me a like, subscribe to my channel, and check out Elevate, where I help incredible women like you attract healthy romantic relationships. Lots of love.